So Tanchjim is back with the OLA 2s, a DD and BA hybrid, and the question is, can this live up to the OG OLAs, and are they worth the upgrade over the bunnies? Starting with the overall sound, the OLA 2 has a full body low-end slam, with the main low-end focus being around the mid-bass area. Drums and guitars, percussion instruments, the rhythmic section has a firm no way and hit to the attack. It's very satisfying with the slam without coming off as overly thick or warm, no bleeding into the vocals, the mid-range. It's pretty well controlled while being punchy enough. Male vocals have a deeper and I guess you can say manlier tone, and there's enough power, clarity, and extension to the artist's voice, but I wouldn't call this a vocal set. It doesn't have the clarity or the final extension, the power to really be like a vocal powerhouse, but it still sounds pretty good for vocals. Tech-wise, when it comes to detail, instrument separation, resolution, it's pretty solid for the price. The OLA 2 sits around the same as the KLEAN SV and the ELUA Ultra level, which is good, and it doesn't sound like thin or pulled back in any regions or overly forward, too energetic, too aggressive. The sound is pretty balanced overall, from the mids to the treble, with a natural timbre, and it's musically engaging as an all-rounder that's also pretty smooth with good resolution on top. If you own or heard the Bunny or Zero Ultimas, these sound very close to them tonality wise. The OLA 2 improves upon that sound with just better resolution, sharper attack, and a slightly smoother treble presentation as well. And if you pair with the Space 2 DAC and the app from Tanchjim, you can get a lot of different tunings with the EQ settings. The DAC is very clean and clear, has very low distortion, also comes with a 10-band PEQ setting, and overall the compact form factor is very nice. I really dig these because I use them on the go a lot, so these are very convenient for that. And when I A/B this to my M5 Mac, the overall scaling is a little bit smoother on the Space 2. I think it's just the chip that they're using. So overall, if you like the sound of the Bunnies and the Zero Ultimas, then the OLA 2s would be the direct upgrade to those. However, I would highly recommend grabbing the T500 tips from Tanchjim with the OLA 2s, which are around $15 to $13, and I've been using these with the OLA 2s because they give a nice boost when it comes to the treble air and the sense of space and staging. These essentially turn the OLA 2s into an airier and more ethereal listen with treble quality that competes and even beats some $100 IEMs like the Defiance and the EW300, which have a sharper, harder treble timbre that aren't as airy and smooth and refined. And with the T500Bs, they essentially become a better extended version of the Magic Ones in the treble, with the same smoothness and with better mid-bass texture on top. So the overall value potential is definitely there. It's not going to be as vocal focused as the Magic Ones, but the trade-off is that the OLA 2s offer more musical contrast, better versatility, works better as an all-rounder, and for cheaper as well compared to the Magic Ones. Now, genre-wise, since it's an all-rounder, the OLA 2 sounds good on pretty much every song, from pop to K-pop to rock to hip-hop. Not gonna wow you or be super unique in the tonality, but there's no glaring issues while being non-fatiguing at a mid-volume listen. The only real downside is that the scaling isn't as good as, let's say, the Explorer or like a warmer and darker set. So we're looking at around 65 to 75 dBs depending on how energetic a track is. But overall, there's enough musical engagement as an all-rounder without coming off as, dry or boring. And then tip-wise, my rec would obviously be the T500Bs for the treble extension. But if you want less energy and, better scaling, then the T500As would do that better and tames down the treble energy more while upgrading the material, the comfort over the stock tips, which I personally find not too comfy because they don't stay in my ears as well. They are very slippery due to the material and because of the smaller fit and the IEM design, which although is very comfy, very light, it can potentially fit smaller depending on your ear anatomy, which is why a stickier tip like the T500s or any other liquid silicone are going to help it stay in your ears for longer. So just try tip rolling a bit. Now versus the original OLAs, these two are very different in their tonality. The original is very bass light, very tame in the low end, has a clean, vocal mid-range forward approach. And even though the vocals have more clarity and separation on the OG, in terms of just overall balance, detail, treble extension, mid-bass texture, and overall no weight, the OLA 2s are an upgrade in that regards. Especially with the T500B tips, the treble extension and air you get on the 2s are a league above the OGs and the bass version as well, which is essentially just a sub-bass boosted version of the OGs. So the difference versus the bass version is that the OLA 2s are going to have more impact in the mid bass, better slam, the texture, the note weight is going to feel more natural in the overall timbre on the 2s, and the treble extension also has more air and refinement to them. So overall, I would go with the OLA 2s over the OGs and the bass version in terms of just musicality and technical performance. Then versus some bassier all-rounders like the Clean OG and the ZIIGAAT Rumbas, the OLA 2 is a more mid-bass centric IEM and tamer in the sub-bass area and just has less boost and quantity overall, even though the low end is not as prominent and doesn't slam as hard as the other two. In terms of technical performance, the OLA 2 is a step up over the Clean OGs and the Rumbas, especially with the T500B tips. You just get more air, more sense of space, and smoothness in the treble. So if you just want an all-rounder and you don't need more low-end quantity, you're not looking for like a bassier all-rounder kind of set, then I would go with the OLA 2s because it's better balanced and it's a more versatile set. However, if you do want more bass and low-end impact and quantity overall, then the Rumbas and the Clean OGs are still pretty solid. On the other hand, if you want a more exciting, energetic, and dynamic listen, then the 7Hz ELUA Ultra is equally as good in the performance but provides the musical contrast and the sharper transients that is toned down on the OLA 2s. It's also more sub-bass focused and gives you that rumble that's rolled back on the 2s, and overall it's a little bit more V-shaped leaning but still doesn't come off as overly aggressive in the sound. So depending on how energetic or laid back you want your music to sound, both would be a good option in their respective tonality. Then lastly, compared to some cleaner IEMs like the Clean SV and the Cadenza 2, the OLA 2 feels fuller, more natural in the note weight, thicker in the male vocals, and this is mainly because the mid bass is just filled in more, provides more body, more quantity, tilts the balance back to the male side of things. And because the low end is leaner on the SV and the Cadenza 2, it gives them a cleaner and clearer sound with slightly better separation, but at the cost of sounding a bit thin, a bit sharp sometimes, especially when it comes to the treble, whereas the treble extension is much smoother and airier on the OLA 2s. And then when it comes to technical performance, all three hover around the same level, so very good for their price. But if I were to pick only one IEM, I would go with the OLA 2s because the fuller lower mids and the more, natural, smoother timbre is just better sounding in my opinion. And with the T500Bs, the treble is a step above the SVs and the Cadenza 2 when it comes to the air, the refinement. Again, it feels like I'm listening to a $100 IEM when it comes to treble quality with the T500B tips. So in conclusion, do I recommend the OLA 2s? Yes, I think even stock these are competitive for the price, especially if you like the sound of the Bunny and the Zero Ultimas. As an all-rounder, you can't really go wrong with these. They're natural, nicely balanced, resolving, and the treble extension and air, especially with the T500Bs, makes them incredible in value. And I would definitely give these a shot if you're looking for a budget all-rounder. Anyways, that's pretty much it for now. I hope you found this review to be helpful. Let me know what other IEMs you're excited for, and I'll see everyone in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Shout out to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, B. Urac, Walker Standard, User, Tsukasa, Guava Juice Bang, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, CT Jack, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777 ZK, Obi, PM the Wizard, Treble Well Extended, Matt Herc, TR8107, Shembak Lay, Addy, Michael, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori, Juniper, Ryan, Nadim, Chimika, Raj, Gilbog, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, Unbalanced Armature, Vitor Ken, Turkog, Hakase, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Archie, Sir Eisen, LL Here, JPLA, Blue Nerd, Firto, Watjo, Spinner, Sam Z, Raj, Yaboy, Etune, Grizzly, Leanne, Mark M, Syracuse, Francis, It's Mark, Hedgehogs, Nostov, Kuya Josh, Net Zero, Nerm BMS, Urian, Benjamin, Hightech, Bazardo, and Rim1. Thank you guys so much for the support.